at Beleaf Medical Since Cannabis in St. Louis, several of their workers were assembled to vote to unionize when at the last second, Marilyn Gleason, Beleaf's director of human resources, came in and stopped the representative from the National Labor Relations Board from conducting the vote. She had spoken with the company's attorney, she said, and Beleaf wanted to challenge the eligibility of 11 of the 16 people who were voting. According to their attorney, they claimed that those workers are agricultural workers, and Missouri is one of many states in the U.S. that do not protect agricultural workers' right to unionize. So based off of that, the company was contesting that 11 of these 16 workers who worked in their cultivation and post-harvest facilities were ineligible to vote to unionize. Not long after he and the other employees filed their petition to unionize in September, the company argued that before the board that the employees are not manufacturer workers and that they're agricultural workers. On January 25th, however, the board regional director of the National Labor Relations Board, Andrea Wilkes, issued a 13-page decision detailing why the employees are not ag workers and could cast votes in the unionization election. Essentially, the company and the Relations Board are going back and forth at this point, debating how they're classifying agricultural workers. And while this is only affecting 11 of their employees at their St. Louis facility, I think it's an important case because it has implications in every other state that does not protect ag workers' rights to unionize. And based off of some research I did while I was reading this article, I believe only 14 states, including California, guarantee ag workers their right to unionize and engage in collective bargaining. So we'll kind of see how this plays out. But yeah, I'd love to hear what everyone's thoughts are on it.
Man, I love this case, Soham. I am so happy that someone is challenging this case on this types of merits, and hopefully we got a big union bust coming up.
I like this story, but for the opposite reason.
I know.
I want to see.
I know you did. I mean,
I think, of course, but ultimately, I mean, if you want, for a company, from my perspective, if you want to not have your employees unionize, then they need to be treated in a way that they don't feel that they need to engage in collective bargaining. If they're getting the benefits and the compensation that they deserve, then most employees are not going to go through the process and the trouble of unionizing and starting, especially in a new place of employment, a new union.
I agree with you, Soham, but the problem is that these unions, all they do is take advantage of these workers. They don't really do anything for them. They just want them to be paying into their system so they can get more political clout and whatnot, and they don't actually represent the people that they claim that they are. And so that's why I'm totally against them.
I mean, I don't disagree with you. I don't think that unions today are perfect by any means, but I do think it's still a valuable tool that workers should have access to in order to protect themselves.
I can agree with you that I can agree with you with the fact that they're tools.
No, and also we should also agree that that workers should have access to them. But I also agree with Jason that the unions today are antiquated. The whole union system is antiquated, and most times in these situations we have low-income workers being exploited for political reasons. That's what the union exists for. So I think until I see a example of a different example in the cannabis industry, that's my position. There are situations where unions, I think, are beneficial. I just don't see it right now in the cannabis industry. Somebody that makes $20 an hour giving several dollars of their check per hour to a union to tell them which way to vote.
That's stupid.
I think
that's fair.
I think they're needed the big companies, like we saw what happened, what went down at TrueLeaf, Curaleaf, all these big companies when people are actually getting taken advantage of, and there's no security, there's no job security, there's no help with healthcare or anything like that, and $20 an hour does sound like a lot to all of us because we grew up in the era where it was like $6, $5 an hour was minimum wage, but inflation is a bitch. And those people, they're making $20 an hour, especially in places like California, man. Like, that still ain't living wages at all.
Yeah, I remember when minimum wage was $5. I remember when minimum wage in California was $5 an hour, and then it went to $5.25. And then all of a sudden, like, it jumped up to like $7.25 all of a sudden.
Yeah,
and then,
well, the thing is, it's
$6.75.
It never has.
Yeah,
it's supposed to keep up with the inflation to make sure people have living wages.
Let me tell you something, bro. Let me tell you something.
Because of union busting.
Let me tell you something.
Because of union
There's
busting,
not even a professional sprinter in the Olympics that could keep up with the rate of inflation right now.
You gonna go back to the cause? Are you gonna go back to the root of that? Man?
Yeah, the root. You know what the root is Joe Biden. You already knew that was coming, Rico. You already knew that was coming.
How he destroyed the American economy. I'm not even gonna go into that. But what I'm gonna say is, in certain situations, and we're seeing more and more of those pop up, like some of these folks, they need to be protected, man. So I'll be the one that says, like, yo, I am pro-union in most situations.
I have a question. Massachusetts is a pretty pro-union state, right? Massachusetts is a pretty pro-union state, right? It's a Democratic state, pretty pro-union.
Just because it's Democratic.
What did the union do to True Leave when they had their employee?
They voted against the union. They voted against it, and then when they were going to be forced to unionize, they bounced on the state. They left.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Well, this is the problem for most.
When Lorna McMurray died, they did something behind the scenes to OSHA and got their fine reduced from $35,000 to less than $10,000, and then they just left the state and leaving 1,800 people without a job.
Yep.
All of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to deal with this in small businesses all the time. California requires that you allow the unions to come in once you get to 20 employees. And let's just call them games have been played to make sure that the license holder never has 20 employees. But my grandpa was a Teamster, and the unions that I'm looking at today don't seem to have the same clout with the government and with businesses that the Teamsters used to. I mean, throwing people off bridges helps, but, we still have issues out here with what does the union bring to a small cannabis business other than bankruptcy, which you can't get. And once you get to a certain point, then, trying to offer to your employees what the unions are offering is a wiser strategy than giving over a lot of control to your business to a union. And that's sort of the balance we have when we meet with my clients and go to board meetings, like, what are you going to do? There's not enough margins right now to really play around with this on the smaller businesses, because if you come in and you get forced to have to give things to your workers that you can't afford and still pay all your bills and your taxes, it's just not viable. Mm-hmm. We still have some tension here about what the unions actually offer to the workers versus putting a business out of business. Right now, they're pretty tenuous in California to survive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the answers.
This is like a situation where the free market corrects these situations. I know, like, everybody becomes scared when we start talking about the free market and how it works and how it corrects things and the longevity of it, if it's true, right? But it is true every time. Trust me. Trust the free market. These principles will correct themselves. If companies are bad actors and they're treating their people wrong, and there's another company that's next door and they're in the same industry, but they're treating their people right and paying benefits and doing things and making it a happy, productive environment, guess what? Company B wins, company A goes out of business. That's economics 101. We will see that play out here time and time again. So that's why I say, like, in situations like this, when we have unions, right? Like what Dale said, we'll have these asks upon the business that sometimes the business can't sustain. In a real free market situation, a business isn't going to make decisions or make expenditures that would make it go under, right? That just doesn't make sense. It's not make sense from a business standpoint, from a community standpoint, from a leadership standpoint. So when you make these decisions in a free market, the free market allows you to make the decisions so that you'll be viable as a business. When you create restrictions and start interfering with business, that's when we start to cripple business, and then businesses go out of business. So nobody's goal is to have these businesses go out of business, right? So allow the free market to operate, and you will see the bad actors will get pushed out because nobody spends money with bad actors. The people don't want to work with bad actors. People don't want to work in horrible environments only when they're forced to, when there's not another option. That we don't have that case right now. So we're talking about America 2024. You have the option to go to somebody else and say, F these guys, F this workers, go on Instagram Live, expose them, come on High at 9, let us know what they were going on, we'll tell you, and guess what? The community will cut them off, the industry will cut them off, the free market will cut them off, the consumer base will cut them off, and that company no longer exists. That's in theory how this works. I know we have a lot of other moving factors and variables that make it not as clean as that, but that is in theory how it's supposed to work, and many times it does.
No hash for you.
No hash for you. And on